Hello everyone and welcome to a new video from Your Destiny. I'm Eddie the Chump and today we're going to have a little chat about the state of the game, how the community is receiving it and its content, and how popular it has become to heavily criticise Destiny 2. I first thought of making this video because over the last say 2 weeks, I have seen a drastic increase in sharp criticism of the game on Reddit, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere really. Some voices are even postulating that the game is dying or that it is far weaker than the original game at the vanilla stage. Well now, let's not get carried away, people. I guess a good place for us to start is why games become disappointments in the first place. Expectations. Everyone who was either a casual Destiny fan or a hardcore player was more than a little excited for the sequel. After 3 years of game system and quality of life improvements, plus some great substantial expansions, what people expected was an experience that built on top of that in terms of size, depth and complexity. Now it is fair to say that Destiny 2 does not meet those specific goals. In a lot of ways it does feel like a sequel to the base version of Destiny 1 and not the 3-year deep expanded version. So on those terms, if that was your expectation, you are probably disappointed. However, much like Giggs outlined in his excellent long-form review, which I'll link in the description for you, I don't see the game as a disappointment. I have my frustrations, yes, but for the most part, I can see where Bungie are going with the game. Here's how I would describe it. The Destiny 2 that we're playing now is the most simple and foundational experience we will ever play. The only direction it will go from here is deeper, more complex and more compelling, and it's actually hard to appreciate how much has changed for the better. Now the caveat to that is that some of the reasons it's so hard to appreciate the positives is because core activities from the previous game are not in the sequel, like heroic strikes, and to put it kindly, some of the new systems that have massive potential are skeletons of what they could develop into. Mods, tokens, and in fact the ways that we acquire loot in general obviously need some work. They will get that work. Now me saying this isn't ignoring why people are upset. I do think some of it is justified. The game is in its current state way more casual friendly, and unlike other similar games, it's traded that accessibility off by neutering the complexity of the endgame experience, instead of synergizing those two groups of players together. A hardcore player starts off as a casual, and through compelling game mechanics and available depth of content, they can progress into a hardcore player. That balance isn't right in Destiny 2 just yet, I'll go ahead and say it. It's not like the endgame isn't there. We have a raid, a prestige raid, trials, Iron Banner, Nightfalls and prestige Nightfalls. There's just not enough reasons to do them. Prestige raids and Nightfalls don't raise your power level, for example. Raid loot doesn't help you in the raid with specific perks, etc. There are things I can point to that leave me scratching my head, but let's not pretend like Destiny 1 Vanilla was some complete experience with dense content available at every turn. It was a meme. Destiny 1 was known as a very pretty empty space where a game should be. That's one of my biggest pet peeves actually, the rose-tinted nostalgia of the first game being this perfect shining example. Factually, it just wasn't. There were massive gaps in content distribution, people forget that so easily. Let's talk about PvP for a moment. There are very few choices Bungie made that I don't support actually. 4v4 is better in many respects. It's not great for Supremacy or Clash, that is true, and the competitive playlist doesn't function that well without a ranking system. It's plagued by quitting and mercy rule problems after someone has indeed left. There's no penalties for leaving or incentives to stay. A ranked mode solves all these problems like we all know, and I might add, like Bungie knows too. There's no way they're not having these conversations internally. Now what I'm about to say next is a bit controversial. PvP isn't as good as it could be because some of the weapon types simply can't compete. Hand cannons and pulses specifically. But that is quite platform specific. PC will play very differently, it did in the beta. And I'm not saying that to gloat or to sound smug as a PC player. That is a legitimate concern for console players, and I don't want you guys to have a version of the game that is objectively worse when it comes to what you can use or the plays you can make. But as it stands, that is the case, and that needs to change pronto. Like I said, there are gaps in the game. There are things that aren't working well enough, and it is true that the endgame is a bit too thin. One particular frustration I have is that they made all the harder activities nominally more accessible to the casual player, but at the cost of why they were so cool in the first place. Raids shouldn't have their super cool or distinct gear removed because many people don't get to raid. That's still true now. Many people still don't raid, or do prestige Nightfalls, or go flawless in trials. All that has happened is that the gear and depth has been watered down. Casuals are never going to organize in teams of 6 every week to do an activity like that. You know who does? People who care about depth. With all of that said, it sounds like I'm being negative like a lot of the community. But here's the thing, the reason I'm not disappointed with Destiny 2 is because I can see how close it is to being everything we want, and the reason it can be that is because of the solid foundational changes the game has made. Tokens are a few changes away from being perfect. Mods could be expanded into a massively complex and compelling mechanic. Iron Banner, faction rallies, clan activities, these are all a few minor changes away from being great. That's why I have hope. That's why I'm not slating the game. I do believe that it will get where it needs to be. Maybe it's the Overwatch player in me. Maybe I'm just a little bit more used to iterative adjustments that bring a game more into a healthy space. Blizzard are always tuning Overwatch and the heroes in the game. I expect Destiny 2 to feel somewhat like that. Obviously I'll look like an idiot if Bungie don't hold up their end of the bargain, but I believe that they will. Just no more talk of friend game, okay? Great. Thanks. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to leave a rating. If you never want to miss another video of ours again, please click the bell icon next to the subscribe button on our channel to join the notification squad. You'll be in good company. And finally, please check out our Twitter where you can find updates about new videos and other cool stuff. I've been Eddie the Chump, and until next time,